Alrighty, let's get started. Um, welcome everyone to Tabnine Office Hours. My name is Maya Deshmukh. I'm head of marketing programs here at Tab9.
My name is Chris Good, and I'm a product marketing manager here at Tab9. We're excited to be back for another week of Tab9 Office Hours.
Yeah, so we're doing something a little bit different this week. We are going to be talking about, broadly where the AI in software development industry is really going, how we got here, and what some of the roadblocks are along the way that we're working on solving at Tab9 to develop the industry's most contextually aware AI agents for software development for mature enterprise engineering teams. So where are we today? AI is here, right? It's already fundamentally changing how we all work. And over the last 2 years, we've seen a massive leap forward in the capability of large language models. And unquestionably, the one area where the impact has been the most visible is software development. And adoption of AI code assistants among software engineers has been moving quickly. I've never seen anything get adopted so quickly. And Gartner estimates that the adoption of AI code assistants is going to surpass 75% within the next 2 years. And there's a reason why this is happening, right? The productivity gains from the available tools today, really any of them, have been incredible. And it's clear whether you're using an AI code assistant or even just talking to an LLM or ChatGPT, these solutions have real value and they're helping engineering teams deliver faster. And the specific increase that most people can come to expect from adoption of one of these tools is a 30 to 50% increase in productivity gains across the full set of tasks that constitute the SDLC. So, how have we really come to here, right? We've seen that AI capabilities are rapidly evolving, and we've got a bit of a longer perspective on this industry than most, given that we originated the category, launching the first ever AI code completions tool, which was admittedly only functioning for the Java IDE back in 2018. And really, since then, you've seen breakthroughs in technology, both from the LLM side, as well as in our ability to build agents, as well as do things like fine tuning, retrieval augmented generation, connection to more and more systems, supported for more and more use cases. But really, the trend that we've seen is autocomplete code completions being the first breakthrough, then in IDE chat, and now we're stepping into the agentic era of AI for software development. And what we've already built at Tab9 is a full set of AI chat agents for every step of the SDLC. And these agents help accelerate and simplify the entire software development process. So our AI agents can help you plan, create, document, test, review, and maintain code. And today you can use these through Tab9 Chat like an AI pair programmer. So they'll assist you with research, generating code, documentation, tests, reviewing and revising code for you, and a whole lot more, as Christopher will show you when we get into the demo. But that's just where we're getting started. So where are we really going? So we're right on the cusp of moving out of the AI code assistance era into the AI agents era. And this is only going to evolve more and more quickly. And Tab9 is going to be your partner along this journey. So many of you might have seen the infamous video interview from Zuck on the Joe Rogan podcast that was trending a couple weeks ago, where he stated that the AI engineer is already here in 2025. But we actually don't believe that that's actually true for the enterprise. Now, what we do agree with them on is that this technology does have the potential and will continue to improve and evolve and eventually will mature to deliver some form of what many in our industry call an AI engineer, or what you imagine is one. But this isn't happening tomorrow. We don't think it's happening to this year. And forecasts on when it will happen or might happen range from as near as 5 years away to multiple decades. So the truth is that if anyone actually tells you they can accurately predict when something like a mostly or fully autonomous AI engineer will emerge, that's a statement you should probably take with a grain of salt. So we've grounded ourselves by looking at what's actually happened, and let's look at where we actually are today. So where we actually are today is transitioning from AI coding assistants to semi-autonomous human-in-the-loop AI agents for specific tasks and capabilities in the SDLC. But in order to get there and to have enterprise-grade agentic AI for software development, that AI needs to leverage deep organizational insights. And why would that be the case? So there's been a number of independent studies and research that has shown that as the adoption of AI generated code rose, so did the number of rejected pull requests. And in some cases, that meant there was a massive amount of rejection at the code review. And the reason that that's happening is the answer lies in your organization itself. So if you ask 10 different engineering managers the right answer to a specific engineering assignment, you'll get at least 10 different answers. And the problem is that all the answers are actually correct, but the only one that matters is the one that matches that specific manager's expectations. And that's the only one that'll make it past the pull request. So working with an LLM, it's really like hiring a software engineer off the street. And regardless of how advanced they get, they're always going to know the O'Reilly textbook answer to a coding problem. But what they don't know is how your organization does things. So at best, they may propose to write a new function where an existing function, API, or microservice already exists, and that could increase tech debt. At worst, they could propose changes that break your corporate policies or adversely affect your application. So what we need to do in order to get to an actual agentic AI application for software development is that you need a mechanism to combine the inherent knowledge and capabilities that are in the LLMs with the right understanding of your team. And when you get those two together, it fixes that. And that is some of the stuff we're going to walk you guys today. So in order to actually build towards this future, there's two things that we think broadly need to occur. So in order for us to move from a AI code assistant to a semi-autonomous or autonomous AI agent, you guys need to have something that is built on understanding and control. So we need to be able to trust the work that's being done by development teams. And we already do trust that because we trust their judgment through the chain of command. But we don't understand the judgment of AI systems. So how can we trust the work done by fully autonomous AI agents? We need powerful tools that are going to help us control what the AI does and establish trust in the generated code artifacts. And there's two pillars here, really. The first is a comprehensive understanding of a company's knowledge and standards. And the second is absolute control over AI's behavior and decisions. So the work of these agents is something that is understood and meets your expectations. And they need to keep you in the loop throughout the entire process and every step along the way. So that's really our thesis on how we're going to improve code quality, security, and speed to unlock the full value of AI in the enterprise. So it is a heck of a time to be an engineer, right? Exciting even. But it's also challenging for many engineering teams. So you have a mandate to adopt AI to increase efficiency, but many of our customers also have to adhere to strict security policies. They have legal policies to contend with. And with all that they need to balance, they also need to find a tool that actually works well with the landscape continuing to shift around their feet. So what I'd like to offer you is some perspective. So as you undertake this journey from the AI code assistant to deploying and using more and more autonomous AI agents, we're going to be your partner along the way. So bear with me a bit longer here, and I'll guide you through how we help address your challenges and give you a customized path to adoption for the use of AI at your company. So these are the 4 challenges that we need to overcome in order to make the transition from standard AI code assistants via chat to semi-autonomous or fully autonomous, eventually human-in-the-loop AI agents. And the primary issue has to do with context. So again, no matter how powerful an LLM becomes, on its own, it's never going to be sufficiently aware of your existing code base and standards. So you need context, and that comes from being connected to your IDE, your code bases, your organization standards, and more of your tech stack. And you need AI agents to work with your engineers and your tech stack efficiently. And if you're going to use autonomous agents, they need to overcome some pretty critical technology challenges to avoid throwing the entire system into infinite loops. And you don't want that, because I personally wouldn't want to foot a bill on that with with usage-based pricing, right? So the last thing that you need is a way to navigate trade-offs between privacy, performance, and protection. So there's critical questions you have to answer, like how do I deploy this safely? How do I get personalization without exposing all of my IP to a third party? And how do I do this efficiently? And more importantly, how do I future-proof this? So let's start with the easiest one, and that is convincing your legal team that you can use these tools without incurring liability risk. Then we'll look at how to personalize AI results and why. And we'll also look at, after that, how to make sure you're generating more code and not more tech debt with AI. And since no doubt you're all buzzing about DeepSeek right now, like everyone else is, we'll look at how to make sure the AI software development platform that you adopt is flexible so you can access ongoing innovations in LLM technology. And the last thing I'll close with is we'll close with the last roadblock, which is deploying and ensuring privacy for your entire organization's adoption of AI for software development. Probably take me another 15 minutes to get through all that, and then we'll hop right into a demo that Chris will show you, where we'll use every single one of our AI agents, our various personalization capabilities, and take you all the way through from a Jira issue to code review. So let's hop in. The first issue that you'll face in adoption is perhaps your organization has pretty stringent and robust legal policies, and there's concerns around the risk of copyright infringement. So historically, the IP liability present in LLM training data, it's been akin to Schrodinger's cat, right? It's alive and it isn't alive, it's there and it isn't there. And it be some organizations that are using AI and reaping the rewards don't really want to look inside the box. But whether you want to or not, it's time to look inside. And a research study from Carnegie Mellon University, published late last year, did open up the box. And what they found is the cat is mostly free of IP liabilities. So it's really not that risky. But clearly, that's still seen as a risk by your CIO, because a 2025 RBC CIO survey said that 38% of survey respondents reported copyright infringement as their number one concern while adopting AI. So I wanted to share our expertise in this area with you. We've worked with many organizations that share this concern, and we've helped engineering teams navigate highly restrictive AI policies, even providing teams that in many cases had legal policies banning LLMs outright with a compliant pathway to adoption. And the first thing to really know is that across all the models that have been studied, the frequency of generating code snippets that had a striking similarity score on something called the LICO eval benchmark, which is a benchmark they developed in this study, to license protected code was between 0.88% to 2% of the time. So the frequency of this occurring is very, very small. And the other thing that can assure you about the safety of this from a copyright perspective is that the more powerful models were actually found to be able to accurately attribute their licenses in this study. So, for example, GPT-4o was found to have an accuracy score of 0.74. Qwen 2 had an accuracy score of 0.95. Claude had an accuracy score of 0.69. And DeepSeek Coder actually failed to attribute licenses entirely. Also note that these accuracy scores are out of 1, but they're not percentages. So what this data can really tell you is, look, if you're using a third-party model from a reputable provider, the risk of IP liability is quite low, and the accuracy of license compliance is fairly accurate. But that's not all you have to rely on when you're using Tabnine, because we offer the most comprehensive approach to copyright and IP compliance in the category. And we do this through 3 ways. So the first way we could do it for you is applying what we call provenance and attribution. And with this feature, Tabnine is going to check AI-generated code against publicly visible code on GitHub. It's going to flag matches, reference its source and license, and that's going to make it super easy for you to decide if the code meets your specific policies. Now, if that isn't good enough for your organization and you're dealing with a situation where you need to adopt AI, you know you need to increase your efficiency, but you need something that's completely IP safe. This is the second approach we can offer you, which is training time protection. So what that is Tabnine Protected V2. So that's our proprietary model. It's purpose-built for software development, and it was trained exclusively on permissively licensed code. So what this really gives you is a model that meets the requirements of teams with the highest standards for IP compliance. And that's something that we see as common in some software companies and some very sensitive industries. Note that there are trade-offs with having to go down this route, though, because the model size is quite smaller because the corpus of training data is quite small. There's only so much training data out there that is completely open source compliant and permissively licensed. And then finally, as a standard, everyone does this. We do it too. We offer contractual protection through indemnification for our enterprise customers. So you've got 3 levels of protection there. And to cap it all off, the risk isn't that big to begin with anyways. Looks like we're getting some comments here. You can zoom in on the 30 to 50% productivity boost. Do you have any data on what tasks that is primarily distributed towards? Great question, Leon. So what I'll do with you, I'll share a white paper we put together that compiles research from third parties, including McKinsey and some other sources on specifics around productivity boosts. But you're going to see the reason we present a general number and range there is because the range of productivity increase you see is going to vary depending on task, language, use case, the complexity of what you're trying to do, as well as your approaches to prompting and the way you leverage context. But overall, on an average, we see a 30 to 50% productivity boost across the board. And there's some figures that we collect and show you in our admin dashboard in the Tabnine Enterprise product that lets you measure the performance of the AI for specific use cases, specific team members, as well as tell you things like automation factor and code acceptance rate that we'll dive into in the demo. Another question from Leon. Besides Jira, what other non-code context sources are available or planned? I'm just about to get to that slide, so pertinent time to ask that question. All right, so next up, personalizing the output of AI generation to fit your organization's context. Here's the reason that you want to do that, right? So AI code assistants are really great, any of them, at generating things from scratch. But in the enterprise, the amount of times that you're generating something from a blank slate is not completely infrequent, but it's rare, and it's likely most of the time you're going to be working on existing enterprise applications with complex code bases, lots of dependencies. And without that context in place, AI code assistants struggle, right? So there's some stats you can see there from the study where, various researchers have found usability challenges with real-world tasks, inefficiencies in complex environments. You've seen code assistants struggle with hard problems. However, when you narrow the scope of what you're trying to achieve, many tools are quite performant overall, right? So if you're just looking at debugging or correcting errors, most tools on the market today are very good at doing that. But let's look at how we are increasing the quality of AI recommendations through personalization. So Tabnine achieves this in 4 different ways, and we call this progressive personalization. And what this does is it makes sure that Tabnine generates recommendations that are relevant to your apps and approach and fit your existing patterns and standards. And there's 4 ways we achieve this: context, connection, constraints, and customization. So context awareness in the IDE, it starts by toggling on the workspace indexing button. And that makes Tabnine aware of any code open in the IDE around a given project, and it's going to use that insight to guide how it responds. The second level is connection to your code and knowledge bases. So you can connect Tabnine to other software development tools, including your code repositories and systems like Jira, and that lets the AI better leverage your existing work to deliver even better recommendations. And with our code-based connection, we support any Git-based repository. So GitLab, GitHub, Bitbucket, Azure DevOps, wherever you're working in, we've got you covered. And the number of repositories you can connect is fully unlimited, so as many as your heart desires. The third level here is coaching based on your standards. So what you'll really see that roll out with is our code review agent. And this is incredibly powerful because it's not just supporting developers, but it's also adding in an exhaustive analysis of code at the pull request. That helps increase code quality and slashes the time spent in review. And it's fully customized to your organization's specific rule sets and standards. And Chris will dive deeper into that. And finally, the last thing we offer is customization of the underlying models. So if you're working in languages that LLMs typically struggle with, which is a common problem if there's not a lot of training data on them, so stuff like System Verilog, VHDL, or other languages and libraries, we can build on our existing models by incorporating your code as additional training data and give you a fine-tuned model of Tabnine. This capability is only available, however, to our enterprise self-hosted or on-premise customers. So, Liam, you asked earlier what other non-code context sources are planned or available. Tabnine is going to have the widest variety of system integration supported, and that really makes us best suited to support mature engineering teams. So we already support all of the major IDEs, all the pull request integrations that you see here, and then we're going to add on more and more third-party context integrations over time, and our context engine is going to become more and more sophisticated. Note that this slide is more of a roadmap feature here, and not all of the capabilities you see on this slide are available today, but we'll show you what we actually have in Chris's section. So it's clear code assistants can generate code, but we actually need to move beyond code generation to AI code validation. And the reason that we need to do that is the code that's generated by generic assistants, there's questions about whether it's actually secure. And these security risks in AI-generated code can occur through a variety of ways. That includes, but isn't limited to, things like identified vulnerabilities, such as the ones documented in the MITRE CWE classification. They can come from non-standard coding patterns or coding patterns that lead to security defects. And academic research has shown that, without question, it's known LLMs can produce unsecured code. So let's dive a little bit into the frequency and severity of these issues from the literature. So a 2024 research paper assessed the security weaknesses against 3 coding assistants, Copilot, Codium, and Code Whisperer. They found that 773 snippets had a high likelihood of security weaknesses spanning 43 common weakness enumeration categories. And that included significant ones like CWE 79, which is a cross-site scripting. And the frequency of snippets with a single security vulnerability was an average of 27%. And the frequency of snippets containing more than one security weakness was 14%. And you might have seen recent news about the prompt injection hack that occurred with DeepSeek. And that partially occurred through exploiting cross-site scripting. So that's a pretty serious vulnerability that these tools need to validate and watch out for. However, it's not all bad news, right? So researchers in 2022 compared a control group that wasn't using AI to a group using it, and they discovered that the AI group generated critical security errors at a rate no higher than 10% of the control group. So it's a problem. It's not something that should stop you from adopting, but something to be aware of. And it's important to look for a vendor that is going to protect you against this. And this is how we do that. So Tabnine helps do a lot more than just generate new code. So our code review agent is really the first of its kind AI software validation agent. That enables organizations to produce higher quality and more secure code by leveraging and enforcing any given team's unique practices and standards for software development. So what we really enable you to do is codify your institutional knowledge. So for example, your accepted standards, unique best practices, or corporate policies, and you can turn those into rules that can be applied in code review at the pull request and in the IDE. And you provide the parameters that you would like to see your code comply with via plain language. We then convert this into a set of comprehensive rules. And today the agent checks the code against your set of rules, flags deviations, and offers guidance and suggested edits to fix the issues. We're working on actually shifting this code review agent left into the IDE because we believe, hey, if you already instructed Tabnine and Tabnine knows this, why wait until code review to make sure your code is compliant with your standards? So the two more slide sections to go through here. I promise I was going to wrap this up in 15 minutes, as I know you guys are all itching to see the demo. But the other thing to think about is, as you select an AI software development platform for the enterprise, you're going to want complete control of your AI infrastructure. And what we mean by that is, as the recent news from DeepSeek showed, the competition in the LLM category is far from over. And there are going to continue to be more and more models that come out and more performant models. So it's going to be important for your organization to have the flexibility to swap out your selected LLM inside of your AI software development platform to the most performant one, as well as offer a variety of LLMs to your users, or small language models if you go off and develop your own, so they can select the right large language, the right LLM or SLM for the task or project at hand. So we have complete model flexibility, and you can configure it to best fit you. So on our SaaS deployments, we offer a variety of third-party models that you can enable or disable organization-wide. On our self-hosted deployments, you can even connect to private endpoints of any models you have in your own infrastructure and connect those into Tabnine. So as this space continues to evolve, you're always going to have complete control over your AI infrastructure with Tabnine with total model flexibility. And the last thing that's important here is, hey, as you are pulling in these large language models and these third-party model providers, you're exposing your organizational sources of context to the AI. It's important that you have a fully self-contained AI system that you have complete control over, that you can trust. And the way we give you that is total privacy, flexibility, and control over your deployments. And of course, if you're on our SaaS product, we do zero data retention there through ephemeral processing. And we never train, store, or use your data to update our Tabnine Universal models. But most of our enterprise customers actually prefer to deploy on-premise. And you also have the option of being fully air-gapped if you'd like to do that. And we also support deploying through virtual private cloud for a balance of the two. And as you're walking through that whole process, just want you to know we have partnerships with all of the major cloud providers and with companies like Dell and Broadcom. So we make it really, really easy for you to fit Tabnine into your existing environment. So now you have a good understanding of what's happening in the category for the AI for software development, and the way our capabilities really put you in the best position possible to leverage these innovations today and for years to come. So I'm just going to cap this all together and then pass it off to Chris for the demo. So what Tabnine's developed is the AI software development platform that's tailored to you. So we're personalized, we're private, and we're protected. You've learned how we've pioneered the AI-enabled software development market. I can tell you we support more than 1 million developers across thousands of teams today, with customers in highly regulated and privacy-conscious industries, and that makes Tabnine one of the most widely used AI applications in the world. And really what we can offer you is a tool that lets you go beyond the limitations of generic AI coding assistants and lets your organization build a AI software development platform that's truly tailored to you and your team. So we're personalized, we're private, we're protected. You've got the most context-aware system. We integrate with the widest variety of IT systems, and we have the most sophisticated retrieval augmented generation models, as well as controls and training on the LLM to give you both code generation and software validation in compliance with your policies. Already covered how we're private, and you've got a good sense of how we protect you from any IP liabilities. So the last thing you should know is it's not just us saying good things about ourselves. We're recognized by leading analyst firms. So most recently, Gartner recognized us in the critical capabilities for AI code assistant, comparing us against all 12 vendors, including all of the major vendors that you guys are well aware of. And we were top ranked for 3 of the use cases and ranked second for a close second, mind you, for the other 2. And really our position as a leader in this space has also been reinforced by being featured as a luminary in Everest Group's Innovation Watch Assessment, as well as OMDIA recognized us in their market radar. So enough talking from me. Let's come to why you guys actually signed up for this, and let's take a look at what you can do with Tabnine and see it in action. So I'll hand it off to Chris here. Sorry, apologies there. I want to make sure I answer everyone's questions before we hop off over into the demo. All right. Humberto, can Tabnine allow developers to create agents and add them to the model? So what you can do today with Tabnine is you can create custom commands and custom chat behaviors for the model, which gives you the flexibility to create not a fully autonomous AI agent, because we haven't launched that yet ourselves, but a AI agent inside the chat that lets you execute specific tasks. And look out for a Tabnine Live coming from us soon in the next couple of weeks, showcasing some of that capability. Berkey, how much company-owned code is needed to train or adapt the agent to the company coding styles and guidelines? Great question. So there's a couple different ways we do that. So with the local context awareness, it's going to adapt and prioritize the open files as well as 14 other data points that are in your workspace as you're working with the AI. With code-based connection, you're going to be able to prompt the AI to reference a specific repository to guide the retrieval augmented generation's prioritization. And that's another way to layer that on. With the coding standards under our coaching pillar for the code review agent, you don't actually need any code per se to adapt the agent to the company coding styles and guidelines. So you could just provide us with a set of natural language rules that you want to implement. It already comes pre-built with hundreds and hundreds of rules from industry standards, like ones covering many of the CWEs that I covered earlier. And the other angle you can take here is just pointing us at your golden repository. So wherever you feel is the best representation of your organization's best code, as part of your onboarding process, point us at it. We'll extract a rule set for you from there and update the rules accordingly. And then, of course, the rules are completely configurable and customizable, so you can continue to update them over time. All right, Jim, the slide explaining working with existing enterprise applications with lots of dependencies. This issue is the largest barrier to entry for my team to embrace Tabnine specifically. To elaborate further, do you have any white papers that help explain how to use Tabnine with our existing large enterprise applications? So the best way to actually learn how to do that is come to us, and we'll set you up with a trial of Tabnine Enterprise, and we will train your team on exactly how to make use of all of our agents, our local context, our code-based context, and our coaching efficiently to get the workflow and outcome that you want when you are working with large enterprise applications. But happy to share our white paper with you, Jim, about our retrieval augmented generation that goes into some more detail on that. All right. Felipe, does Tabnine support the Spanish language? Yes, it does. That is one of the things you can do with our custom chat behaviors is you can ask Tabnine to respond in Spanish, German, and then I don't think there's probably any other Marathis on this call today, but that's the language I speak. It's one of the Indian languages, and our product marketing director also speaks Marathi. So we learned today that Tabnine even supports Marathi. So I'm curious to see what other languages are out there that we support, but you can definitely have it respond in Spanish. Jim Patrizzi, we have Enterprise already, just trying to learn how to use it. Glad to hear that. Reach out to your CSM, and we will schedule a training for your team to help you make use of that more effectively. That's fantastic. Love it. Is Tabnine enabled to use several database models? I mean, can Tabnine use GPT or any other model? How does it work regarding the security? You can use any LLM you like with Tabnine. And the way it works regarding security, if you're security conscious and highly privacy conscious, what we recommend you do is deploy or get an LLM with a private endpoint that is either on-prem on your own infrastructure or inside of your virtual private cloud, and then deploy Tabnine in the same space and connect it in with the private endpoint. And that'll give you a fully self-contained solution. where you don't have to worry about exposing any of your data to a third-party LLM with the external API call. I do know that Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which is one of the ones we offered through our SaaS deployments, if you're using that model, they themselves state that they do not train or retain their customer usage data unless you explicitly opt into it. But if you're going to go with their SaaS deployment, one of the things you should do is look into each one of the models out of the ones that we offer, look into their data privacy and data policies, and then make a decision for your organization on which one of the models among the ones we offer in our SaaS deployment you would and would not like to enable accordingly. Alrighty, fantastic questions from everyone. Let's go ahead and hop on over to the demo. And then afterwards, if you've got any other questions, once Chris is done rolling through the demo, I'll make sure to answer all of them live as well.
Sweet. Okie dokie. Hear me all right?
Crystal clear.
Perfect. Okay, let's add this guy to the stage. Okie dokie. So for starters, let's go over the Tabnine UI that folks will be interacting with, and sort of each of the agents you'll find along the way. Some of the different form factors you'll see Tabnine. So for starters, Tabnine, you'll find it here once you install it. On the left-hand toolbar, I'm using VS Code. It's my IDE of choice, but when you open it up, this is the first area that you'll see, and this is the Tabnine AI chat. So when you click this agent, you'll see at the bottom an area for everyday conversational natural language prompts, right? You can type in prompts, queries, so on and so forth. You'll also be able to access your local agents, right? And these are agents that we've built to do more of the heavy lifting to reduce prompt engineering. So the standard ones you'll see, explain code, generate test for code, document, fix code, and code explore. Unfortunately, it's not standard for you guys to get the Easter egg, the refactor wizard, Steve Ballmer mode, but we can work on that. Next, you'll see, areas for you to add extra context, right? This is a new one for us. It's being able to add images of context, right? So architectural diagrams, UX or UI changes. Heck, I believe Amanda built a Netflix sort of clone using this image as context, which is really, really cool. You also find this is where you implement Jira tickets to or bring them in to implement or validate, as well as be able to toggle on your workspace context. And what this does is consider project, current file, packages, etc. as context for that responses. So at the top here, you'll see first our switchable models modal. So these are the ones that I currently have available to myself that I use, but prefer Claude 3.5 Sonnet. I'm a huge fan of it. It's worked the best for me, so that's why I'll be sticking with today for this demo. Next to that, you'll find our test beaker, or you'll see a little beaker known as our testing agent. And this is where you're able to generate comprehensive test plans based on your selected code or file or what have you. You can also bring in pre-built test plans and validate coverage, which is pretty cool. Excuse me. Next to that, we'll find our settings gear. And this gear is where you can Jira, be connected, but it's as simple as 2 clicks in about 30 seconds. You can determine your response length. So a concise might be someone who's not looking to have all of the extra whys, whats, and hows. They just want code suggestions and minimal words. Comprehensive might be helpful to someone who's onboarding into a project or familiarizing themselves with an organization. Give a little bit more within each of the responses. And we've talked about a little bit. Maya's part of the demo or presentation, but you'll have find in this new area called defining custom behaviors, right? So let's you have teams that are, out of India, or you have teams in other parts of the world, right? You can tell Tabnine to, respond in Spanish, or respond in Chinese, or respond in the dialect or tongue that you're speaking with, as well as responding like a mentor, or have an emphasis on security or scalability. It's quite powerful. As well as this is where you'll be able to find your custom commands. So you can add and define custom commands, as well as share custom commands from this area, which is a new thing for us. I'll get to that within the, but this is where they will all be stored, as well as turn on chat inline communication. So as you type in the chat, it will recognize your intent and help provide suggestions to speed up that process. So the next area outside of chat where you'll find Tabnine is going to be called lens, right? So, or let me back here. Let's talk about code completions. As you're typing, you'll see anything in gray, not the straight one. Gray suggestion here, that's tab 9, hard work, right? And what it's doing is it will generate contextually relevant code and code recommendations. It'll automatically recognize your intent, right? So if I'm want to add another section to the toolbar for help, right? It's something I don't currently have. It's recognizing that and suggesting if you're typing out documentation, it'll autocomplete docs and comments and code and tests and so on and so forth. So let me back up here. Cool. So the next spot I'll see is this. Let's go over to the layout, the code lens. So at the top of each block of code, you're going to see this tab 9, edit, test, explain, document. And if there is something wrong, you'll see a fix, right? And these are just very similar to our agents, very similar agents like you would see in our chat, more inline, more flow. It's requiring you to do less work, right? So you're able to just go up and quickly say, edit, test. I want to explain the code here. It'll highlight this entire code and give you an explanation on what it is and what's going on here, right? Explaining, okay, it relates to the rest of the file and how it relates to the rest of the project. The last area that you're going to see Tabnine through the inline actions or quick commands. So that's a command I on a Mac keyboard. I understand that may interfere with JetBrains users, but I believe you can remap shortcuts in JetBrains, so that should not be in. But this command I will populate this drop down here, and this is again another area that's more in and more in the developer flow. You can change model, you can reference code snippets, you can also access these quick commands, right? Fix, document, explain, or explore, as well as just type in natural language queries or prompts to change this code or perform whatever action you're looking to do. It can all be done from this query bar here. So let's start from the top. We'll go through a usual cycle, software developer going through each phase of the SDLC, started plan. So for this first stage, as a developer, it's incredibly to gain an understanding of the project, what the application does, etc. So what we're going to be doing today is using the Code Explore agent. And that's a built-in quick action in tab 9 that users can invoke, starting a new conversation here, or at a blank slate, empty state. And you can type in code /explore, right? And what this is going to do is return a high-level summary, project's key elements, runnable script, key dependencies, overall structure. And in addition to the summary, the Code Explorer agent also suggests possible follow-up questions about this summary, allowing the developer to dive further into information to current tasks, right? So the way I see it is Tabnine chat's very, very, very powerful. And in this sense, you can use it to onboard into a new project, a new team member onboard into a new project much, much faster while reducing the load on experienced colleagues who spend less time helping this new teammate onboard.
Chris, your audio is breaking up pretty bad. Pretty bad here. Maybe okay, it's a little bit more clear.
Throttling.
Alexander says it sounds like it's throttling. Perhaps worth it to try to kill some consuming processes. Do you want to maybe try closing out any browser windows you might have open that might be throttling?
Yeah. Let me do that.
The other thing, I know when I'm running the apps that I'm building with Tabnine on my local port, it can kind of throttle my performance a little bit there. So that might be a bit of a cause as well. But let's see if we fix this audio issue. And while you're doing that, Henry, what are examples of custom commands I could generate? So, I mean, Chris has got some pretty cool examples that we'll show you later. But really, it is only limited by your own creativity. So, one of the use cases that I could share with you that's pretty cool is you can combine custom chat behaviors with custom commands to do things like multi-step workflows. So you could write out a series of actions to be taken in sequential order in a custom command, and then create a custom chat behavior that tells Tabnine to execute the commands and the action in the order that you've listed them. And you can also write into the custom commands specific context sources to look at. So that's an example of a custom command you could generate. Some other ones that our customers are using that they really enjoy are ones to update documentation in multiple places, again, through that workflow. And then Chris has built some kind of just more fun ones like Dependency Whisperer and Refactor Wizard that he built to help him with refactoring tasks. And I think the most funny one that he's built is probably the Steve Ballmer agent, which tells Tabnine to respond to any requests like Steve Ballmer giving a excited presentation in Microsoft Days, if you guys remember that far back. And Henry also said the test plan is better to do by method or class. So yeah, all of our agents and everything inside Tabnine is completely tailored to you. So we've built it all with flexibility in mind, and you can use it however you'd like. So you can use our testing plan to do it by method or class by selecting it. You can also use the code lens to test and generate a test for an individual block. You could highlight code and use the test agent inside chat to generate a test for it. So there are a lot of different ways to interact to make this fit into your workflow. All right. Let's see.
I'm hoping that I sound better. I closed maybe 60 tabs. So
that sounds better to me. Let's roll. I'll drop that.
Fingers crossed. Okay. So all right. Explore agent, what it's doing, it's generated this high level summary, but then it also provides this extra set of questions, right? To dive a little bit deeper, right? Get a better understanding on what's actually going on with the project. So in this case, we know that it is a Next.js app. I'm aware that it's fraud detection dashboard. To give you guys a little preview, it looks something like this. It does look like this. So we have an understanding. We're aware of what's going on and what this project does. Let's move on to this next stage, which is going to be creating, adding something, doing a different change. So earlier in this session, we talked about our Jira agents, right? And there's two. There's our implementation and our validation agents. And we've already connected Tabnine to Jira, but again, if you don't have it already done, it's connect, authorization of an integration, and you're all good to go. And just want to confirm really quickly, we can hear me all right?
Yeah, I think it's still clipping a little bit, but it's definitely a lot more clear than before.
Okay, well, for the sake of everyone on this demo, I'm getting a hardwired connection this week, so won't be an issue anymore. So let's keep moving forward. So we have the Jira agent. Let's add a ticket. Let's go to our ticket and we can see what's on our schedule for. So we integrate Jira. Important to know, this is our sort of full demo board here. I'm only going to see my tickets in my queue in Tabnine. There's a bunch of other ones within this board. There's 7 to do, right? But when I actually go into Tabnine and I go to Jira, it's going to populate this drop down. And the last issues that have been active in the last 30 days will show that are assigned to me on my user. So what we'll do here is let's pick out, let's do a brand redesign. And we'll say implement this, please. I'm a big P's and Q's. You never know if there's going to be a robot takeover. So just like to always add a little please and thank you. My prompts here. All right, so we are going to do a green and coral background change. Would be my first choice, but let's do that. So what we'll do here is click apply. Boom. Let's just see if we have. Oh yeah, well, we have the coral in there, so that's good. So let's just say, for the sake of this, let's validate it. So we've just had it in. We see the corals there.
Hey, Chris.
But I'm not. Go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off. Yeah, your audio's still cutting really bad. Maybe we don't typically do this because I usually run this part, but let's see if I can freestyle on top of while you're demoing here, because it sounds like Tony let me know that my audio is coming through perfectly. At least your video and screen's coming through good. So. All right. So what Chris is going to do next here is use our Jira validation agent. So as you already saw, he invoked the Jira implementation agent, and it happened pretty fast. So you might not have noticed a couple of things, but I wanted to call something out. So when he told it to implement that ticket, what it did is it looked at the local context in his workspace. It then went and read through the Jira ticket, the description, the acceptance criteria, and then it gave him an implementation of that ticket that fit the local context of what he was working on, and then addressed the acceptance criteria description inside the Jira ticket. And the other thing that he did that happened really fast was he clicked the apply button. And what the apply button does is, rather than you having to find the diff of the code yourself and then copy paste and insert it, the apply button will just automatically put it to where Tabnine thinks it's supposed to be. And you might have seen when he did that, thank you for bringing that up, Chris. You saw this red and green. So that's Tabnine showing you the diff in the code, and you have to take one more action prior to it actually being put in. So this is your moment that you should review the changes that it's proposing making to your code and make sure that they all make sense before accepting it. And the reason we do this is that we think it's really important to have human in the loop agents. So developers are the experts. AI is pretty good, but you yourself are going to know if its suggestions actually are meaningful and appropriate or not. And it should keep you informed at every step along the way. And this same type of thinking is going to guide our agentic applications as you'll see as we continue to develop this on an ongoing basis. And that's really important that it keeps you informed, because you need to be able to trust the output and validate what it's doing. So Chris went ahead and accepted that, and now he's fired the validation agent. So now it's validated that, and you can see here, Berkey's got a good question about this. How detailed is the Jira ticket of this example? So Chris is highlighting the response from Tabnine here, and what you'll see in the ticket is it's got a description and I believe 5 or even more acceptance criteria. So now going back into the IDE, you'll see that inside the chat, Tab9 has checked off and told him, okay, I successfully implemented 1, 2, 3 was partially implemented, and here's the additional things that need to happen. 4 was implemented correctly, and 5 needs some work to assure that it's been implemented correctly. So this is going to get you 90% of the way there towards executing your Jira ticket, and now you can take it from here and either work with Tabnine to completely build that out, or go on and use the code completions or any other modality you'd like to fully complete the ticket. And it's even guided you on an additional 4 set of action steps that it's recommending you take to fully complete the ticket. Now, if you're a senior developer, you probably don't need those, but if you're more junior, they probably become more helpful. But regardless, it's a good way that Tabnine keeps you in the loop. So there we have our Jira implementation and validation. What's next, Chris?
Well, if you can hear me, we're going to fix.
All righty.
Right. So I see that I didn't know where the errors were. They were working in a big project.
Audio's so bad. Here, I'm going to try freestyle on top of this again. So the fixed code agent. Luckily, we've done this together so many times. So the first thing Chris is going to do here is you see his file up top there. The name of the file is in red. So you know that there's some issues in that file already. So he's going to ask Tabnine in the chat to first find the issues in the file. And he's doing that using our @reference feature. So he's @reference that specific file in his workspace. And that tells Tabnine's retrieval augmented generation to prioritize that file and look specifically into there. So now what it's done is like, okay, I know you're trying to find errors. Here are all of the errors in the file. And in some cases, it's actually gone on so far as to actually suggest corrections for those errors. So Chris could either implement those if he thinks that those make sense and fit the file that he's working on, or he could go to each error inside of the IDE file itself and invoke the fixed code agent through the code lens functionality, which, Chris, you want to just scroll down to one of the locations that might have a error. Also, notice that with the capability, even though Chris's open file was the layout.tsx file, Tab9 went and read through the, I can't read the name of that. I think it's dynamic chart con presets or something file, which is the one he was trying to direct it to. So, okay. He has now, go ahead.
Say we just won with the code lens, show apply.
Yeah, so that happened pretty quick too. But there is the code lens functionality, and that is a button that appears over individual code blocks. So let's say you ask Tab9 to find errors, and you know where they are in your code blocks, or even you're just reading through your linter and seeing them. You can just click fix code on each one of these, and Tab9 will give you a recommendation to do that. So if you want to go full file, you could roll that. And if you want to go individual code block or function, you can do that as well. All right, Jim. Yep. Thanks for joining us. And we won't be on the demo with you next week, but you'll be with our solutions engineering team. So I hope you enjoy that. Thanks for stopping by. Okay. What's next, Chris?
Yeah. So next we'll go through the testing agent.
All righty. So
not sure.
Testing agent. Still can't hear you, but I think you could just prompt me on what we're doing next and I could speak to it. So Chris just applied the fixed code changes onto his file, and now we're going to go to the testing agent. You could invoke that through the beaker icon up top. So now he is going to click generate test plan for code to get the testing agent going. And what the testing agent does is it reads your full code file, or really any code that you select. And then what it's going to do is it's either going to create a new test file if you don't have one, or if you have an existing test file, you can point it at that. Chris doesn't have a test file here, so we're going to create a new one. It's going to put it inside of your project folders most of the time where it should be. But we always recommend reading through where it's putting it in your directory first and modifying that if it's not where you want it to be. Now it's gone through and read his selected code, and you see it's generated a list of suggested tests. Now, as a developer, your responsibility is to read through those. And if you like what they're suggesting, you can just click on one of the tests, and Tabnine is going to build the test for you. So, Chris, why don't you click on one of those tests now? So, should dynamically export Cartesian grid component without server-side rendering. Okay. There is the test. If Chris was really doing development here, he would read through that in more detail. But for the sake of demo, we'll assume that that is exactly what it should be. So we'll go on to the next one. And something you can always do is you see underneath the test that it just generated, describe the changes you'd like to be made to modify the test as a prompt that's appeared there. You can have a conversation with Tabnine there to ask it to change the test. It's generated to fit what you believe is appropriate. So this testing agent's our second version of the testing agent. The first one was just a chat action. But what's really cool about this is it helps you get a quick start on getting a test plan together and then implementing it. We're working on another version that you'll hear about later on in the year, where eventually you're going to be able to check for test coverage and code coverage targets and use Tabnine to help you along the way there as well. So I think Chris is generating a couple more tests. Going to click the apply button, and it's going to go where it's supposed to be in the file. And now you've seen a bit more about how Tabnine can help you with your testing. So document is probably next, right?
Correct.
Alrighty, code documentation. The thing that we're all supposed to be doing as engineers that no one wants to do. Tabnine makes this super easy. This definitely isn't like a super exciting capability to show you, but there's multiple ways of doing it. Chris is doing the code lens this time, so he selected that code block, clicked document code on the code lens, and Tabnine has generated documentation, is showing him the diff. He actually prefers that his documentation be in one area above the code block instead of line by line. So now what Chris has done is use the quick commands capability, which I believe is Command I or Control I on a Mac, and that lets him not have to go and talk to chat, but he can now just give feedback to Tabnine to change its response through the code lens to his liking. So just another way that we try to make this fit as seamlessly as possible into your workflow and your preferred way of working with AI.
And your hands don't have to leave the keyboard to do this.
They do not.
You don't have to pick up a mouse, you can stay typing.
Yep, that's the dream, right? Be able to code without ever having to leave the keyboard, and especially if you've got those mechanical keyboards like my brother's a software engineer over at Facebook. He's got one of those fancy ones, keeps telling me to get it, but I'm quite happy
mechanical keyboards. I call them typewriters.
Typewriters.
What they sound like.
They do. All right, so that was the document code agent. What are we going to next, Chris?
Maintaining.
Alrighty, maintaining. So this is kind of, it's not an agent per se, right? But this is one of the capabilities of Tabnine Chat. So it's really there to act like a AI pair programmer that is helping you along the way. So while in an enterprise, or you probably wouldn't get ideas for building new features from an AI, your product manager, your engineering manager would give them to you. That's just something we like to show on the demo. So Chris has prompted it for 10 ways that he can improve his Next.js application to make it more efficient and secure. So now you can see in its response, it said, based on the context of your Next.js application and the test file that you've shared, So there's that progressive personalization kicking in, right? So the more you work with it, the more it's starting to learn and understand your project. It has suggested 10 improvements to it to improve the performance and security. And there are things like, use React Memo for performance optimization, implement proper logging, so on and so forth. Now, these types of performance and security improvements are the types of rules that you'll want to include in your code review agent rule set. And as we shift that left into the IDE, this is going to guide and further customize the behavior of any LLM that you're using in your IDE through our agentic and personalization enhancement to generate correctly the first time code that fits your performance, security, architecture, and readability, maintainability, rule sets, and guidelines. And what you can also do is ask the LLM to take those 10 implementations and rewrite them as Jira tickets with acceptance criteria. What you can't do is push those tickets and create those as tickets in Jira, but looks like an engineer is probably not going to be doing that anyways. That's more of a project manager thing, but just another kind of cool capability that we like to show, because I do know anytime we demo the Jira agent or I talk to some folks from some orgs, they're like, I show them the Jira ticket and they're like, we don't have Jira tickets with acceptance criteria. So you could use AI to help you get tickets with acceptance criteria if that's a challenge for your org. All right. What is going on next, Chris? What are we looking at?
I believe the last piece we want to cover custom commands. I can show those quickly and show the chat response length and things like that. And then we can move on to the code review.
Perfect. Okay. So I forget who asked about custom commands earlier. It might have been Berkey, but you find your area to define them in tab 9, right, by toggling the settings icon. So there we are, define custom commands. Chris has got a whole bunch built already. Jira ticket creator, refactor wizard, security improvements. But the way you would create one is you click add, and then you create a slash name for the custom command so you can invoke it. And then you create a description of the custom command in a sentence case. And the place where you can really get as complicated as you'd like is in entering the prompt template. So something that is interesting about Tabnine that we do behind the scenes is you're talking in the chat to Tab9, and what you type in the chat is actually not what's sent over to the LLM. So we take that, we do retrieval augmented generation. So we do retrieval, and then we enhance the prompt using the local context or global context as well if you've connected into that. And then we modify the prompt to ensure that you get the best possible response out of the LLM that fits your organization standards, context, and what you're working on, as well as the task at hand. Another thing it also looks at is which one of our agents you're using. So that really helps us give the LLM the right context at the right time for the right task at hand. And a stat I can share for you there is just by turning on our local context awareness, so that's the workspace indexing, you'll see a 40% lift in code acceptance rates. And what that tells you is developer queried Tab9, it generated a response. Did the developer then click the apply or insert button? So was the response actually meaningful and usable? Yeah, there's Chris highlighting using workspace. We've toggled that on. And that's really important with AI is personalization, as I covered earlier with my slides. So custom commands can be defined there. You saw that. You can also do custom behaviors, and these guide things like telling Tab9 to respond in different languages, like Spanish.
What was the dialect that you said?
Marathi. Respond in Marathi. THI.
Is that right?
Yeah. I think Felipe was interested in seeing. THI, right? Okay, cool. Yeah. I have never tried this live. So let's see. I also cannot read
Ooh.
Marathi.
How can I improve them?
Would it be possible to get another version of this demo with cleaner audio and video from Chris? So we do this demo every week, and last week the audio was crystal clear. That's on our YouTube channel. So you could just pop on over there, go into our live tab on our YouTube channel, and you'll see every single one that we've done every week for the last, I think we've been doing this for 6 months now. But hey, there you guys go. It has responded in Marathi. So those are non-English characters that it's using. I unfortunately never made it past learning how to read the vowels growing up because my mom tried her best to teach me, but it didn't stick. But there you go. So you can have it respond in any language you like, even ones that don't use English characters.
You can also, I know I'm breaking up, but share custom commands across projects via your source control manager. When you do share, they get added Tabnine commands file. So as other people are adopting and using this project, they'll have this preloaded. So when they do use an open project, they'll see those commands.
Yeah. And then I believe someone else was asking about, like, can we see a demo of this with an enterprise application? So something Chris and I try to do is, look, you've all seen AI code assistants from anyone generate stuff from scratch, but we've intentionally tried to build out a more robust application with a directory structure that would be closer to something you guys would actually run into in your day-to-day for these demos, just to showcase Tabnine suitability for your needs. All right, so that is custom commands, custom behaviors. Response length can be toggled on and off there as well. And then chat inline completions toggled at the bottom. That's just where it's predicting what you're going to ask it to query inside chat itself. So I think let's pop over to the code review agent next to close out this demo. Cool. So I already covered the two ways you can use to train the code review agent, right? But this is what the rules UI looks like. So you see in the first or second column, it's organized by your language. There's a rule ID and a description. It also is organized by library and then category, which Chris, if you scroll down, you can see some of the different categories of rules. There's security, architecture, readability, correctness, and a couple other categories that we offer there. And as you generate these rules, what we do for you is we pull a good example and a bad example of the rule and add it on into the rule description. Now, as Chris scrolls further to the right, what you'll also see there is a severity ranking. So you decide how severe these violations are and set a severity ranking. And then you can toggle organizational controls there, right? So is the rule public? So can other admins view it and edit it? Is it on by default for everyone? Is it enabled for specific users, or user emails, user IDs, or organizational IDs? So if you've got thousands of developers and you guys are all working on different rule sets across the org, you'll likely want to configure some that are global. You want to configure some that are user specific, some that are organization or team specific as well. So this really gives you that configurable option to ensure that AI generated code meets your standards. So that is the rules setting there. Now going on actually into a PR, this is our coaching demo PR. So what you'll see here is Uri Stearns submitted a commit, submitted a PR, excuse me, and Tabnine has gone through, and you see the PR agent there flagging a deviation, writing a to-do, and then suggesting a revised version. And then there's where you can reply and continue to work on that. And you'll see Tabnine flag a bunch of other deviations here. And if you scroll down to the bottom, what we have is a summary report. So this is our Tabnine PR report. And it is going to tell you, like, hey, this is how many critical issues were found. This is how many errors. This is how many warnings. And this is how many proposed suggestions that we've generated for you on this particular pull request. Again, this is the first version of our code review agent, so expect all of this to continue to improve and become more sophisticated over time. But really the reason we built this tool, the code review agent, was, hey, I've covered that in the slides already, but our customers were finding that using all of our other agents, they were shipping so much code so much faster into code review that, for example, one customer we talked to told us that, man, I have like hundreds of PRs to review that are coming into me all at once. And I want to focus on educating and training my developers on writing better code and focus my code reviews on teaching them how to think better about writing code. So what Tabnine's been able to do for him is automate away or support with automation through human in the loop the nitty gritty of code review and let him focus on that higher level training, thinking, and education with each developer. So the code review agent, don't see it as replacing human code review. We're enhancing it and we're enabling you guys to actually do code review the way it's meant to be and the way that we've all wanted code review to really be as people working on software. So Chris is going to pop over next to the Tabnine Enterprise Admin, and this is where you're going to see some analytics, right? So here's an overview. This is pretty simple, standard reporting, but it's showing your users that are registered, that are active, and then it's giving you an automation factor, which is one of the productivity metrics that you can see. This is our internal Tabnine demo environment, so we are not quite all that productive as engineers, given that we're marketers, but your automation factor will be way higher. Usage per user is also something you can see. You can see overall usage and account utilization. So this is a good way to just kind of see if your team's getting use out of it. Finally, you go down into settings. This is, various CSV reports, whether or not you want to enable Tabnine local context. This is also where you would connect to external code repositories. Connection is really simple. You just click that blue button there, and then it's a SSH or SHTTP connection that we enable. And again, you can connect an unlimited amount of repositories, and you can enable which ones are available to be accessed by various teams and users. And the last thing Chris is hovering over down there is our Jira connection. So this is where you enable that on an administrative level. We support both Jira Cloud and Jira Data Center. And once it's enabled on an admin level, each user can connect into their portal for Jira like so, as Chris showed you earlier, and that's where that user level ticketing starts to work very well. Now Chris is going to hover over and go into our models. So look, if you're deploying on SaaS, you get access to all the models that we offer, but you have control over which ones that you enable for your organization. And if you, and that's really what I was recommending to Jim or Alexander earlier when he asked me a question about security around using third-party LLMs. So if you're using our SaaS deployment, go and read on about each of these model providers, privacy and IP liability protection, and dive into that. And then you can make a call there. And of course, if you're using our on-prem deployment, you can connect to your available models in your own infrastructure and toggle those on or off to make them available accordingly. Anything else we should cover here, Chris?
I think that's about it.
Awesome. So let's close out the demo section here and just open it up if there are any questions. I know we've gone 20 minutes over time, as we often do. But yeah, if you've got any burning questions, go ahead and drop them in and we will pull them up on screen and address them.
More Wi-Fi suggestions. I'm a
All right, looks like you guys are all questioned out at the moment.
Geez, I will say that I think in upcoming sessions we'll be showcasing some pretty cool things. We briefly mentioned about image context earlier today, but It's very cool, very effective, and it's awesome at being able to read complex diagrams and be able to implement it. It's quite fascinating.
Yeah, Berkey, good question. So for the on-prem solution, we provide our own model. So if you're going to deploy this on-prem, right, you can use Tabnine Protected from the get-go. But if you require, if you want it fully self-contained, along with a third-party LLM, you do need to go get your own private API endpoint for that third-party LLM, right? Which we recommend you do. Like the majority of our customers all have multiple LLMs deployed on-prem that they connect into. A large percentage of them also just have one or two. I think the most popular ones we see are Claude 3.5. That's pretty easy to deploy with Bedrock. But yeah, you would provide your own because you want that entirely in your infrastructure. If that's not a concern, then our SaaS deployment is super easy, right? And then you get access to all the models through there. Sorry for the no need to apologize. What custom command can I build? Can you give me some examples, please? Okay, let's pop back over into that. So these are all the custom commands Chris has built.
I was gonna say, if there's anything maybe that you're looking for specifically, Henry, we can try it out. Heck, my video already flopped, or audio, so I guess that's one working right. So let's give it a shot. If you want to test something out, let's.
Yeah, Henry, if you want to build a custom command together, we're open to it. Just drop an idea there in the chat. And then again, we're going to be doing a Tabnine Live entirely on our custom commands feature in the coming weeks, Henry. So that will be a perfect opportunity if you don't have an idea right top of mind right now for you to really see the capabilities of our custom commands showcased. We're working with our solutions engineering team and some other folks internally to document out all of the cool use cases for custom commands, and we'll teach you them.
So it's quite powerful what you can do when you combine custom commands and custom chat behaviors, right? You can instruct your chat to read everything in, for example, sequential order. And then you can make your custom command, for example, you have a template of doc template of some documentation that you want to follow. You can create a command to create documentation using that file format, and then add any other steps, right? Anytime you create something, a new code block, and then if you chat operating in sequential order or behaving in sequential order, it can do really cool things like refactoring massive projects or taking, like I said, that documentation from that file, referencing it, creating new documentation based on that file's documentation, but do it in a way that doesn't add things up. And we'll dive into a lot of those examples in the next coming weeks.
Yeah, so Henry, I'm going to drop a link for you in the chat. So next week we'll be doing Tabnine Live, will be how to get any LLM to adhere to your code quality, security, and IP policies. And the three things we'll be showing and diving deeper into there will be provenance and attribution, our code review agent more, and then really the bulk of the demo. A lot of it's going to be around personalized chat behaviors and shared commands to enhance workflows. Okay. So maybe to read a file for coding standard to adapt the response, maybe translate to Spanish or Danish. Cool. So Chris, I'm going to generate documentation in Spanish. And why don't you mention, well, I guess I don't know if you can mention a custom command, but selected code, perfect.
So let's just let's take this guy, go in here. Are we still in this behavior now? Okay. Let's do a new Spanish docs.
Yeah, so that is another way of guiding the retrieval augmented generation. Is one of the factors it looks at is your chat history. And there you go. Okay, so here's this Spanish docs custom command, and it has now generated documentation in Spanish up top there, and it is explaining the details in Spanish as well inside the chat. And what about the difference between concise and comprehensive configuration? So that is a control over the chat response, which guides how much detail you want the AI to respond with. So that is set by response length. So we were on comprehensive till now. Now we've toggled it to concise. And let's maybe give it the same query or give it a different query and see what sort of response we get. So Chris is typing in here, explain to me what the at dashboard.tsx file does. And here is a example of a concise response.
So let's take this cell and we can go back. Oops.
Now we'll go look at what it looks like with the comprehensive. Okay, so now you can see in the comprehensive explanation, it's gone component by component and is, well, as the name suggests, far more comprehensive. So that hopefully gives you a clue there, Henry, about or give you some insight on the differences in comprehensive versus concise response length and what that really means. Because it's not always clear until you see it in action with an AI tool, which is why we also demo this live every week so you guys can see it in action. Any other questions? All right. If that is it for questions, oh yeah, you're very welcome, Berkey. This is probably the favorite part of our jobs, spending time with you guys and answering questions and demoing it for you. Ryan Moon, is the response length setting available in Visual Studio for on-prem environments? Probably yes. If you're a current customer, there is some complexity and nuance to how some of our customers deploy. So if you're a current customer, I'd say reach out to your CSM and they can get you access to that setting if you don't have it already. But from a broad perspective, without knowing additional detail about you, the response length setting is available on Visual Studio for on-prem environments. So all of our features and functionality that we've demonstrated is available in all of our deployment modalities and in all of our supported IDEs, which include Visual Studio. Got to run. Thank you for joining us, Tony. Pleasure spending some time with you today. Henry, can you please put the screen again with the result of the custom command?
Oh yeah, let me. So let's pull this back up here.
All right, Henry, there is the result of the custom command again. Maybe Chris, I think he might just want to see that bigger. Can you maybe scroll
Oh,
the, yeah. Oh, a little bit better, hopefully, there for you, Henry. But there is that. So we'll give you a chance to read through that and answer a couple other questions here. What are the different LLMs that? Oh, thanks. Okay, great. So we'll move on from show this. What are the different LLMs that Tabnine supports? Well, can customers choose their own LLM, such as Claude or Gemini? So, Chris, do you want to toggle over the? Yeah, you can go into admin. Why not? So here is our admin controls for Tabnine Enterprise. And we are on the SaaS version, or I believe either SaaS or self-hosted. We have two different demo accounts. I'm not always sure which one we're on. But in our instance of Tab9, these are the models that are enabled. And then I believe dev.tab9. So this must be the SaaS that we're looking at. So here is the self-hosted. And on self-hosted, we have a lot more models available, Llama, various GPTs, Mistral, etc. So Suresh, to answer your question, we support pretty much every single major LLM provider. And can customers choose their own LLM? Yes, you have complete control over which LLM or set of LLMs you'd like to choose. And hey, we even go so far as to, Suresh, if you are building your own LLMs or SLMs, we'll connect those into Tab9 for you too if you're an on-prem customer. So it is completely flexible, total model flexibility. What's the token limit for request and response? I didn't find that on Tab9's website. So if the question you're asking here is, if you're a Tab9 SaaS customer and you're using our switchable models, do we throttle your access to the models? And the answer to that question is no, we do not. We don't do that. And sometimes people find that a bit hard to believe. And the reason that we don't have to do that is because of how our retrieval augmented generation works. So many AI assistants have started to say that they connect in and do local context awareness and code-based connection and all that. But there's a big difference between just connecting into something and then actually being able to efficiently use RAG to give the right level of context at the right time from the right source for the task at hand. And we are really good at doing that, which is why we don't have to throttle our customers. So that's why there is no token limit on request and response that is on our website, because it doesn't exist.
Mic drop.
Hello to you as well, Ernest. Sweet mountain biking photo, by the way. Looks like you're about to cross a river on that thing. Pretty adventurous. All right, Suresh, other than code generation, does Tab9 support generic code review or security code review as part of the PR process? Yeah, we absolutely do. You must have, perhaps you stepped away while we were showing that. Chris, do you want to pull up the code review agent?
Yep, got it back up. Let's pull it up here.
All right, so these are code
review. We want to do the security.
Yep. So let's organize our code review rules by category and scroll up to security. These are the security rules that are pre-built in this instance of the code review agent's rules and configuration, Suresh. So that's one of the things we're focused on at Tab9 actually, is going beyond code generation, because it's clear any AI can generate code quickly, but what's really important in the enterprise is validating that code. And I shared some statistics and studies earlier showing that LLMs on their own can and do generate code with security issues, and that's because it's the data they're trained on, right? They're trained on likely everything available on the web, which we don't really actually know what they're trained on, right? Because no model provider exposes that. But some of the data that they've been trained on has security issues in it, so they produce code with security issues. And that's why we built the code review agent to do AI code validation. And this does this as part of the PR process. So these are all rules that are custom set and configured by your organization, in addition to our standardized rules. And then, Chris, if you want to pull up the PR, the code review agent acts directly in the pull request, and it's going to read through the submitted code, flag deviations, and suggest revisions by knowing and understanding your organization's standards for specific security, as well as architecture, readability, maintainability, correctness, and other categories of rules. All right. Leave it open for another minute here, and then we'll close up shop.
Appreciate all the questions, the engagement, and the patience with my network today. So thank you all very much.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure being on Office Hours again with all of you, and we'll be doing this again next week. So,
Yep.
hey, if you want to invite any of your team over to it, you know where to find us. Oh, how does it compare with industry tools such as SAST? Static application security testing. Okay. So really what the code review agent is doing is it's going beyond the limitations of all the static code analysis tools. So right now, the code review agent's in the pull request, but what we're working on is shifting it left into the IDE. So you've seen some of the customization that we can do just with simple things like custom commands. Imagine a AI that generates code that is free from security risks from the get-go because it knows your organization's standards. So that gets rid of the need for, it really doesn't get rid of the need, perhaps I shouldn't say that, because these tools are all important and they've played a critical role, but it really takes it a step further because now you are able to change and make modifications and fixes to deviations to rules rather than just stopping at flagging them. So I think the use case for static application security testing tools is still important, right? You always want to have as many layers of security testing present as possible. But Tabnine is really taking it a step further, and those tools, they do provide some really good insight into the level of security that your code has. So you should continue to monitor with those. But that's how I would say it compares against industry tools for security and static code analysis. It's a and plus better together story for you there.
And we'll be on again next week, Wednesday, 7 a.m. So 3.5 hours earlier, that's 7 a.m. Pacific time. So if you have any questions that you should think of in the meantime, you can catch us again in a week from now.
All righty. Thanks for joining us. We'll wrap up there.
Cheers.